up, Stackers? Bigstack McGee here. How are you doing today? It is a bright, frigid, sunny Saturday morning where I am, and I just wanted to share a quick story and a recent acquisition here with you this morning. I didn't get into serious stacking until 2012, 2013, and but I had some experience with coins many years prior because my grandfather he liked to collect coins and he collected stamps. And I remember when I would spend some weekend time with him, in addition to playing Atari, he would also get out his collections and we kind of go through them. And I remember we used to sort through coinage and pick out silver. So we'd anything that was 1964 or before, we would pull it out, and because he knew even back then, what I'm describing is the early '80s right now. He just knew that that there would be a reason that you would want to have that stuff separated, and that there's value to it, and that it was real money. And so when he passed away, all of his kids, he had several children, got a portion of the silver that he had, including stacks of silver dollars and things like that. And I remember he had given me one, and so I'll never forget the first time that I got a Morgan like this. This could be the one that he gave me. I don't remember. Unfortunately, I think when I started picking them up myself, they all ended up in the same tube. I do not recall. I'm sure I had on a video somewhere. I probably say which one was the one for my grandfather. But this reminds me of him. This sort of coin. It's like there's so much detail because of you get some of the grime and some of the years of wear that get in there, and it pops it out, right? It's like in relief then. But I'll never forget the first time that I got a Morgan dollar from my grandfather. I just thought it was so special. I used to carry it around wherever I went. I think I had it in my coat pocket with a zipper because I didn't want it falling out. And I also love the sound it made when I would do this kind of thing. You could really hear that distinctive silver sound. But from an early age, I just treasured whether it was this coin or another coin. I feel embarrassed for not knowing which one was, but I just loved that silver dollar. And it's funny because I never came across any other than when I was at my grandfather's. So I guess I kind of figured that, it was inaccessible other than, from antiques or treasure hunting or whatever, right? But obviously there's a whole world of vintage coinage out there and things, but it didn't occur to me to try to seek more out at that time. Plus, I didn't have any money, I was a little kid or whatever, and the years go on, and then fast forward to 2012 when I was turned on to the value of gold and silver and stacking. I think I've mentioned in the past that I do have a little bit of a collector's nature to me. Started for me with comic books and baseball cards and things like that. And of course, I started collecting right when all of that stuff was basically worthless. An example would be baseball cards. When I started collecting baseball cards in the early 80s, Tops and all those other kinds, they used to make so many fewer in the 60s and 70s. And of course, by the time they got to the 80s, you got 100 times, 1,000 times as many cards printed. And so regardless of who the people were on there, the values were pretty limited, even in the best condition now when you look back. Same thing with comic books. I started reading comic books in the 80s. If I had comic books from the 60s and 70s, watch out. Some of those are very, expensive. The value of my collection is very little because, in fact, it's almost impossible to try to sell for any kind of value because there's just so many copies of those things floating around and nobody wants them, with the exception of some of the rare issues or whatever. Anyway, I had some of that collecting in me, but when I started stacking, I realized that the value of the intrinsic really appealed to me. Trying to find things as close to spot as possible. I wanted as much actual weight of silver and gold in my stack as I possibly could, and I kind of brushed off the collecting part for me. When I got to a point, I'd say probably in the last couple years, as I started becoming a little bit more satisfied with the amount of silver and gold I had in my stack, some of my attention turned then to coin collecting because it was a natural fit. I had a history of this with my grandfather, and And plus, I believe that, especially because they're old coins and things like that, that the value is retained and collectors are going to keep wanting them. So there's a little bit more of a stable market, in my opinion, when it comes to numismatics. I still didn't turn my full attention to it until probably this past year, when the prices of the metals made it less desirable for me to try to stack poundage and more desirable to start to look at some of the numismatics with some of the cash that I had. So I'm just going to show you one of the coins that I decided to get. So again, this is a typical example of a circulated Morgan, and it still looks beautiful. I'm going to show you something. Take a look at that. So there's a lot of reflection, but this coin has major cartwheeling, and it is just in my opinion, pristine condition. It is not a rare date of any kind. 1880s, very, very common date, but that condition, MS67, is just one of the more fine examples that you can get. It's just beautiful to look at. So it's funny because for me, when I think back to how much I valued having that Morgan dollar for my grandpa, and to an example like this, I feel like I don't know that he ever in his life saw a Morgan so pristine, because he just would come across his. I don't know, I think he had some from when he was young, and I'm sure he probably sought some out at the bank. He would probably go ask them, like, if they had them, and he would give some to his grandkids and add to his collection or whatever. But I don't know, it's just a natural progression for me. So I've been embracing recently finding coins that I really, really like. And not for any other purpose, but then to just have some, I think one day I would love to have a complete typeset of U.S. coinage. I think that would be really fun to go back and find all the old pieces from the 1800s, the 3-cent nickel, and there's so many large cents. There's really cool coins that are out there, and so I think right now I've turned my attention a little bit more to that. I'm still picking up gold when it dips, like it has recently, but I haven't been buying a lot of silver when it's this expensive. So so if you're talking stacking strategy, I'm considering taking a few hundred more ounces of generic silver than I have, and maybe converting that into gold. Because right now, I believe as of today, I think the silver ratio is right around 66, 67. And that seems pretty reasonable for me now to make that kind of move, as opposed to when it's much more out of reach. Because for me, adding to that gold stack is a little bit more of the end game, as far as you can only have. And I'm not saying this because I think silver stacking is not what I want to do anymore. I love silver stacking. It's just these prices make it less interesting for me to pick up. I would love if silver kept going up, because the value, of course, is just it's being recognized for that. But like anything else, it's going to go up and down, I think. And so when silver goes back down, I'll be buying in hard. But right now, I think, like I said, long-term play for me is to add as much gold as possible to my stack. And of course, now I'm going to have a lot of fun with some of my numismatic purchases as well. So hope you enjoyed just a small little insight and story into my childhood and kind of where I came from. It feels really good to be in a position right now where I don't feel that urgency to like add more weight to the stack, because I'm pretty happy with what I have, so that makes me feel pretty good. Anyway, I hope everyone out there is doing great, and I'll be back at you hopefully sooner rather than later again. So, we'll talk to you soon, and have a great day.